Moments with God, a time of reflection for every day.
January 16th. Right choice Jeremiah 21-8. And unto this people thou shalt say, Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I set before you the way of life, and the way of death.
Besieged by enemy armies and with provisions running out inside the city, but with the hope of being saved, Zedekiah king of Judah sent to consult God's prophet about the future of his nation. However, God's answer was not what the king wanted to hear. There would be no miracles of deliverance, there would be no protective power to defend the evil city, and if they wanted to keep their lives, they had to surrender to their enemies. Surrendering to their enemies was to be their slaves, to serve them, to pay them tributes, and to have their freedom broken to depend on foreign nations. This shows that decisions for the well-being of life are not always the nicest, and generally imply sacrifices, and their costs can go against many expectations that we have. However, they are the best decisions that we can make. Back to the story, Zedekiah, king of Judah, was upset with the answer and vented his anger on the prophet, who was not to blame. Far from humbling himself before God, he blamed the misfortunes on the servant of the Lord, and did not choose the only path he had to preserve his life. He was captured along with his family, his children were killed in his presence, his eyes were taken away, and he was taken prisoner to Babylon. Life and death are before us to choose. However, before life the path is narrow, with heights and slopes. But for death the path is wide, with attractive plains to take steps one after the other. Without looking at what is at the end of the path, the most chosen is the path of death. Attractive religions that claim to love God, however, they discard His commandments. That say they feel the love of God in their lives, that they care more about their feelings than their obedience, and make the Christian path attractive by discarding what God really wants from His people. When there is a definitive order from God, it no longer matters how much we philosophize or how much we want to see it in another way. What God asks is punctual, and there is no ambiguity in choosing another path. God says, do not make images, sanctify the Sabbath, do not have other gods, do not steal, do not kill, do not commit adultery, etc. He does not give us reason to think that we can lighten His express commands. When the well-being of our life depends on obedience to His orders, even if it seems beyond our expectations, it is better to obey because God does not order us to do something that will later harm us. What God says is for the well-being of His people. But many pretend to be holy, without respecting His commandments, and making their flock believe that God's commands are no longer important. That is an incorrect choice. The attractive path of not being governed by God's express norm undoubtedly ends in ruin. There are many supposedly sanctified people who are helping Satan in his work. They talk a lot about feelings and their love for God, but God does not recognize their love, because it is a deception of the enemy. God has given light to these people, but they have refused to accept it, and they will receive the reward of disobedience when the father of lies receives it. We cannot speak of holiness if we have not begun to keep the commandments of the Lord. His commandments are the standard that measures our holiness. What other standard is there that can measure our conduct? There is none, only the law of God is the one that has value for these things. Therefore, never believe that it was annulled and lost its value. God continues to demand respect for His commandments just as He did in the past. Therefore, to choose the path of life, we have to go down the path of respect for His commandments. Amen.
Thank you for listening to this audio. We invite you to share with your contacts and visit the website BibleWell.com.